Hello everybody, this is my live stream, and I'm now going to quickly set it up for my Patreon viewers to watch it. I've had a few problems this morning, YouTube live, and I'm really struggling. But basically I'm going to do my regular vlog, explain what's happening towards the end of the year. I've got some interesting projects and publish now, and that's what I'm going to talk about. And I'm linked to my Patreon viewers, and hopefully this will work. It's not working. It's not working for Patreons. So yeah, privacy unlisted thing, everything's working. I have nobody watching but me. Why won't it work? Okay, I'm now getting it through to my Patreon feed. I don't know if you can see me, any of the Patreons. If you can, I'm on a separate feed now. I cannot see if you're gonna ask me. Oh yes, I can. So if you try and comment below and let me know if you're watching it. It's my final try. I'm not trying after this. I'm not trying again. And I see that it's not working because I got one person watching, and that's just me. None of the other people are watching. Oh, it works. Hello, Andrea. It's finally working. Okay, the Patreon live thing is a failure. I just went straight through as a standard. So anyway, yeah, the wind has been taken out of my sails completely. I spent the last 3 hours fighting with technology. And so anyway, what I will do is I'll continue for those people that have stuck around for this long to watch the broadcast. I actually had it in my garage with the truck behind me and everything, using a laptop, and that failed. But that was the one I used in the laptop I used in the US when we had a successful live broadcast. And I thought, oh well, I'll try that one again. But my big machine is better, easier, more screens, easier to. Anyway, it's working. So if you guys have got any questions, then let me know. Plans for the coming month include a trip with Ronnie Dahl. Some of you might know him, Australian chap that does four-wheel videos in Western Australia. That's his specialty. And we're going to go and do a 3 nights camp in the wilderness somewhere. He's going to do one of his episodes where he discusses other people's trucks. I think he calls them modified, and I'm going to probably do an Overland workshop with him. Very knowledgeable in Australia, really lots of knowledge, and that's coming up quite soon. And I've put together a number of videos that are I think I kind of stacked up an inventory because my daughter's coming from Cape Town. I haven't seen her in a while. That's Kate. I haven't seen her in a while. I want to spend some time with her, so I don't actually want to do a lot of production work in December. I'm also moving house in 2 weeks, and I've got a really nice editing room, beautiful editing room. I've got a studio and I can work in the vehicle in the back, so that's very nice. And so lots of busy things. So what I decided to do is put together an inventory of videos that will tide everybody over Christmas time. And there's some good stories, and the one of them I actually uploaded it to video, but I schedule it and I'll probably release it around Christmas. It's the story about why I don't work with Mitsubishi, and I call them story time. You've seen some of them, and anecdotal stories about the whole my history with being a four-wheel drive journalist and its challenges and its rewards and on all of these things. And I've recorded about 5 of them. And the best one, I think, is the one why I don't work with Mitsubishi. So look forward to seeing that. You'll enjoy that one. It's a good story. I also put together 5, or is it 6, Overland workshops with Paul Marsh. Now, Paul, you'll know from the Overland Workshop series. He came with me to Canning Stock, of course. And we put together a series of what we called Overland 101s, and they're basically for, kind of stepping back a bit, for the beginners, for the people that are really kind of interested in not just driving off-road, but actually just doing long trips and that kind of stuff. And we've done things about, first one, for example, is where do you find good information? Do you trust forums? I loathe forums. We've got somebody else on. Yay! Hello, Richard. 2 of you. Good. Very pleased. We thought, well, where do you find information? You can go onto forums and be completely bamboozled, A. 2, misled utterly by somebody who's done one trip and is now a complete expert. Or you can get really good advice. But how do you know? You don't. So that was an interesting discussion on kind of going through, well, what attitude do you have to take? What is the process, the mental process of sifting through all of this information and trying to come up with good decisions? That was a good one. We did about choosing a truck, finding a truck that's right for you. Brand loyalty is one thing, but if there's something that brand loyalty is not terribly important, you're looking for practicality, then maybe there's another, again, way of looking at things in finding a truck that's going to suit what you are trying to do. Not everybody's different, and so everybody's taking a Land Cruiser. Well, maybe it's not. Maybe something else is actually going to be better. So that kind of process, interesting discussion as well. The same thing goes for accessories that you bolt onto the vehicle, roof racks and suspensions and protection and all of that kind of stuff. Same process. And then we did 2 programs on camping accessories, being comfortable, and packing, the mental attitude of packing a vehicle, and how do you actually, access is really important. Well, can't get everything easily, but so all of these different ways of looking at things. So Paul, of course, is very good at that, and he loves doing those. He's passionate about it. It's what he does. It's his whole, he absolutely loves it. So those videos will keep everybody happy over November, December. Of course, we wrap up with Canning Stock Route. There's one more episode 8, that the Patreons haven't seen. Public, I think I've seen up to episode 5 at this moment. And I've just finished editing episode 9. Episode 9 is the truck. And all of the good bits about the truck, and there were a lot of... I've fallen in love with this truck. It is the best thing I've ever built by quite a long way. But there are certain things that just shone, oh wow, wow, just so nice to use. So, really low hassle factor, just a pleasure to use. And the vehicle itself, driving it, was wonderful. I loved it. It was so nice being back in my own cruiser on a rough track. Hello, Jordan from the US. William, hello. Marty from Vancouver. Brilliant. Rodolfo from Excellent. I don't know where you're from. Sometimes technology takes a few tries. Dennis, you're not kidding, are you? Yes, no, it's not like Table Rock. Okay, it's not. Table Rock, we had Jeremy with us. there's a difference. So anyway, I managed to get it sorted, and great. Peter, hello Peter, hello Michael. Here, we're all here. Fantastic. I'm so glad you guys have joined me. It's working. I mentioned this before. I'd actually set this up with my laptop in my garage with the green cruiser behind me, not in my editing room. And I kind of just, I was just like, I gave up and just felt all kind of despondent, and I thought, actually, let me give it one more try. But from my big machine, maybe I had better luck. So here I am. And we got it, third and total of 4 attempts. We got it right. So I'm very, very pleased about that. Hello, Matt from Ohio. El Paso, Texas. I hope you didn't wear too badly during your storm a couple of months back. You guys in Texas had it rough. So the truck, the cruiser truck. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a heads up on what was great on the truck. You'll see in episode 9 I documented it quite well. I actually went on another trip on my own to a place called Holland Track. These tracks in Australia are just they kind of go from nowhere to nowhere. I mean that it's from nowhere to and you just drive for 5 days and you arrive at nowhere. So the track itself is the destination, and that is so amazing about it. And being alone again, I haven't done a lone trip for several years. It's quite tough at night, to get very lonely at night. But I just got in touch with my inner truck. And I really enjoyed the Land Cruiser, and I shot the kind of conclusion to the truck and all its good and bad bits. And I'll let you in now to the truck, the suspension, those shock absorbers, those BP51 shock absorbers. Wow, what a great ride that truck had. Now I got leaf springs at the back, 400 kg leaf springs at the back, which in itself, leaf springs and a solid axle on the back is not designed for comfort. Designed for load carrying and stability. This vehicle was comfortable. Those shock absorbers, and we did quite a bit of tweaking on the rebound. You can actually set them quite easily with a C-spanner. I showed in the video. And I'm setting the rebound, setting the compression, and we fiddled a lot. Paul and I must have fiddled at least 3 times on the track with that to get them sweet, to get them just right. And it rides. Man, it's nice to drive. It is so nice to drive. The other question that you might all be asking is, what about the flat tires? Hello from Vancouver, Christopher from Vancouver. Are you planning to make it to the east coast of the Utah anytime? I'll get right to your questions now. And the other question you might be asking is, did the skinny tires work? Now, yes and yes, but with a caveat. Yes, I still don't believe that wide tires give you any advantage on sand at all. It's got nothing to do with the diameter, width, because when you let down the tire, it doesn't get wider, it only gets longer. All tires get longer. Wide tire, higher rolling resistance on sand. And again, we went up these dunes, 1,000 sand dunes. Now, only 100 or less of those 1,000 sand dunes are challenging. Probably, if I think about really challenging, 25 or 30 really challenging sand dunes. That Land Cruiser just walked them. There was one moment, it was in the middle of the day, and I was driving, we're chatting to Paul, and I was driving. Stopped. I realized I wasn't going to get up, so I went back down. I had been in 2-wheel drive the whole morning, because the night before I'd done a big sharp turn, and I just banged it into 2-wheel drive so the car turns sharper and I could park for camping. I forgot to re-engage 4-wheel drive. Even with 2-wheel drive, the vehicle was just riding the dunes. And there was one other occasion in 4-wheel drive where I came in and the approach speed was too low. I just stopped, went back, put it into, I remember actually going into the lane low third because it needed a bit more precise, and it just went over. Once did I, that was the only time I actually needed a second attempt at a dune. Even the most difficult ones, and you get these divots and the vehicle does this boom, 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 and you really have to hold on, and it's climbing and the wheels are going into these ruts. She just walked it. I was just so impressed. So now I'm completely happy. but I'd like a bit more diameter, because diameter is the key. If you can get a bigger tire over sand and soft ground and then reduce pressures, you have all the advantage. Diameter is the key, not width. In fact, width is a problem to me. Overly wide tires, you can have as big a tire as you like, but they're too wide. Tractor doesn't have wide tires. Desert trucks, desert vehicles used by the military in pure desert conditions, they're not wide, they're big. They're rounded and they're big. So, and BF Goodrich doesn't make the ideal size of in an all-terrain. They only do it in the KO2 mud terrain, which I might move to. So that was my final conclusion with the tires. I'm investigating a larger tire, but I haven't decided yet. But I don't want to go wider. Don't want to go wider at all. Just what, Matt? You can. There is always time to mow your lawn. Do you plan on visiting the East Coast of the US? I hadn't planned to be completely honest with you. I like the idea of Overland Expo East. The trouble is that I have to. My visits to the States center around either Expo East or Expo West. The only time I'll get to Expo East is if I decide I'm not doing Expo West this year, I'll only do Expo East. And the reason why is that traveling to the United States for me is torture. It's 30 hours of torture. I don't want to do it twice a year. I'm happy to do it once a year. I'll put up with it. But it's not 30 hours of torture. It's 60 hours because I have to come back. So you can understand why I'm not really interested in doing it twice. I might do it, and the big incentive will be Expo East, but I will also have to link it with a trail, a trip or something. And I don't have any yearning to do that east part of the United States in terms of a trail and a trip. The center bit and the west bit is more interesting, I think. I haven't done a lot of investigations, that is true, but that's the way I am now. Right, I'm glad you were clear of the of the close, Rodolfo, so you didn't hit the storms in Texas too badly. Hello, Chris from Hong Kong. Look at 225. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Matt. That is the tire that I'm looking at, but it's the mud. It's the 255 8516, and it's 33s. You're absolutely right, but it's a mud. It's not an all-terrain. So that's the only reason why I didn't actually fit them from day one. Jeff from California, Southern California. Hello, Jeff. Hope the fires. No, the fires are further north, aren't they? They're not southern. Wow, you guys have had it rough. You really have had it rough. Okay, question: did you need to boil the water from the wells, or was it potable straight after the wells? We drank it straight out of the wells. In at least 3 of the wells, straight out drinkable. You can just tell. Now, you're so far away from any industrial. You're not going to have chemical contaminants. There's no mining in the area, and we drank the water straight out of at least 2, if not 3 of the wells. Didn't even treat it. So that was really, really nice. Very, very sweet water. As you can see in the video, we just tasted. But you can actually often smell the water. And if you're in a very, very wild area, you can often do that. Trouble is, if you're in a very, very wild area and there's lots of hills, you must remember the water has come down the hills and it might have flown past settlements, people. And that's the problem. People are the problem. People in industry. In these, they're just underground wells. They're literally just underground. They're not contaminated at all. So was it risky drinking the water? Not really, because we'd read about it and people were saying water's fine, water's fine, water's fine. So I just took their advice literally. And mud terrain is also good, and Dan says it. I know. In Namibia, the guys that do the sand sea trips, and it's 6 days of driving over enormous dunes, not Canning Stock Route type dunes. I'm talking about sand sea type dunes. They all use muds, interestingly enough, and I was very surprised when I saw it, and I asked them why. This was in 2010, 9-10, and they wouldn't have had the KO2 then. KO2 came out in 2015, if I'm right, and they were using muds, and they said that it was the tire that lasted the longest, because they're traveling so, I mean, the tire's entire life virtually is at 12 psi, about 1 bar, or less. And they're saying that the mud, the BFG muds, is the only tire that can survive that kind of punishment for a long, and still have a reasonably long life. And the vehicles performed fine, even with the muds. So it's just the noise. I tried the BFG muds once on my previous green one, and I had them on there for a short time, and they were noisy. They were really noisy. I know the KO2 muds are far quieter, so I'll probably give them a try. Whatever happened to your version of the Frontrunner Wolf box development? Okay, that's from Kansas, Kenneth. Good question. The Frontrunner box is not a Frontrunner box. It's actually made by a company in South Africa called Wolf. They're actually called Wolf packs. They're made for Frontrunner. In South Africa, you can get the Wolf pack, and they're labeled 101 different, because Wolfpack basically make them for everybody. I hate the Wolfpack Frontrunner box with a passion, and I've never used them. But they're quite practical. But those clips, the lid, the brake, I hate them. Whatever happened to my copy? Well, I made a copy with a company in near Pretoria, and they were, I've still got quite a few, and they're very successful, but it's a box. It's so expensive to ship fresh air, and it just wasn't viable. They would land in the States costing like 4 or 5 times more than that Frontrunner box. So I understand it, but maybe I should try and find a US manufacturer to do it too, because the size is good. Those boxes, the size is right. So my box was exactly the same size, with a lockable lid, with a foam insert, so that it would be sealed from dust, and it was a tough, very, very tough box. I've got about 5 of them, but I actually don't use them in the cruiser. But I know where you're coming from. Is there anything similar to Safari Drive type for service in Australia? Very much so. I don't know them. It's easy for me to recommend service providers doing rental 4-wheel drive, fully equipped 4-wheel drives in South Africa. Not easy for me in Australia, because I haven't been here long enough and I don't know the industry well enough. But I can ask Ronnie. Ronnie will know. I'll be seeing him in 2 weeks' time. So maybe email me, Jeff, because I can find some. But the answer is most definitely. Most definitely. There are services. If you want to do a trip through Australia, you want to rent a fully equipped vehicle, plenty. But what my job is to try and find the ones with a really good reputation. I've seen them all the time. When driving up there, I see plenty of them. So you're not going to have difficulty in finding something that'll suit your needs. For those of you who have just joined, I've put up videos for our Christmas, November and Christmas. My daughter's coming from Cape Town. Kate is, and so I'm going to spend some time with her. Not going to have a lot of time to actually doing production, so I've stacked up an inventory of videos, namely a whole lot of Overland workshops that I shot with Paul on the Canning Stock Route, and story time videos, some funny, interesting story time videos. Next year, to wrap up, what I will be doing is I'll definitely be going to the States. Now, my idea was, and it still is, to do a road show with the Green Cruiser. And it all depends on my underwriters. I don't call them sponsors, I call them underwriters, mainly because sponsors generally have influence over content. Underwriters don't. Underwriters using influence marketing strategies. I am an influencer. That's what my new title is. I'm an influencer. I influence people to buy stuff. And so people want me to use their stuff, so I will influence other people to buy it. That's the way it works. So my influencers, generally speaking, don't give me any money at all. My rule is basically, if you want to give me some equipment to test, I'll test it. We don't no money changes hands. And I have certain rules about that. But there are other people saying, okay, I'd like you to use our product, but I'd like you to take it a little bit further. It was like, but not unlike BFG. And then I announced, I'm not reviewing tyres anymore because I have a vested interest. How can I stay neutral? And I still think it's the best tyre. I do genuinely, underwriting or not, think it's the best tyre for what we do in the world. But how can I honestly test another tyre? I would find it very, very difficult to do that. I have a vested interest. And anybody with money coming in, they have a vested interest, so you're not... Anyway, my conclusion is, if I test a product, no money changes hands. However, if we want a relationship with a brand bigger than just testing products, then we can talk. And that's what I'm talking to. I'm talking to a number of people. There's a very interesting oil company that actually approached me. There's, and of course, BFG, and there are a few other irons in the fire. And if I get enough, I'd love to bring the cruiser to the United States, tour around, I'd be there for 3 months. I would be allowed to be in the United States for 3 months on the visa. So 3 months, and I would do a trip thinking about Canada, seriously thinking about doing something in Canada, at least 3 weeks in the wilderness of Canada. Steelhead trout fishing, please. I'd love to do that and explore the back roads of Canada. Such a vast, I mean, it's like Australia. It's this vast areas of nothing. Sounds fantastic. But I definitely will be in the United States. I definitely will be at Overland Expo West. Maybe next year I'll think about East. I'll look at the times and things. But I love the idea of showing you guys, bringing you the cruiser, showing you it, showing off, watching you drool. Sorry you can't get 70 series in the United States. I feel for you. But anyway, there you go. That's it. Did you require film permits because drone licenses for your filming on the Canning? Thanks, Brett. No, I didn't. Let me explain something to you. My productions are not not commercial. They're not sold to big TV net. They're not regarded as commercial. This kind of work, while I earn money from them, it's not regarded as commercial. And for commercial filming, permits are one thing. And how I treat it is that the drones, you're allowed to fly a drone and film things without a license. You don't need a license to fly a drone, unless you want to fly it in certain areas above a certain height. Then you need a license. In Zambia, for example, in 2015, I even contacted the Parks Board and all of these wildlife services and everything like that, and the tourist people had contacted me. They'd seen some of my stuff and said, would you come to Zambia? And that was one of the intensives. And they helped me out with a few things, but they wouldn't give me any money. They don't have any money. But I said, okay, I'd like permission to film in your national parks, which would normally cost $1,200 US a day, and I'd like those waived, please. And they said, no, I couldn't do it. No, we can't do it. It's not our department. Oh, okay. So I went anyway. But I didn't take big cameras. That's why I don't like big, heavy cameras and big, heavy tripods. Those I can't take because that looks professional. Take a small camera, shoot with small cameras anyway. And we did that entire series. I just went anyway. And it's a win-win-win all the way because they still get the publicity that they were looking and hoping for. They didn't give me any money. They gave me a few contacts of some lodge owners that didn't really. It turned out to one. Flat Dogs was the one that I used. Was the only one I used. But it was an amazing trip. I didn't have the constrictions of having to use their guides. When I wanted a guide, I'd use one of the guides. Otherwise I wouldn't. I wouldn't be forced to. Which, if you're a commercial filming operation, you have to. It's similar in Australia, national parks and things like that. If you're doing commercial film work, you need a permit. Fair enough. I don't have a problem with that. Mine's not commercial. Did Paul remain down there after the trip? Not for very long. About 3 days. He's got family here. 3 days, and then he headed off back to South Africa. Thank you for being persistent with the live broadcast. Hello, Lynn from Houston. I'll be at Expo West next year. Definitely be at Expo West next year. Except I don't think I'm going to be doing any teaching. I might approach them for something else. Maybe what worked very well is I did a presentation, not last year but the year before, big hall, was packed out. I did a 90-minute presentation of my work, and that was, I think that went down really well. I think I'd like to do that in the evening. If it's not in the evening, I'm not interested. They showed my videos at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon when everybody is out. Nah, no, I'm not going to come all that way and then be away from my stand where people are actually looking for me and go and show my films in a thing where there are 12 people there in the middle of the day. I'm not doing that anymore. You know, you make it worth my while, or, I mean, I'll come, but I won't necessarily offer my services. Rodolfo, did you find that you'd overpacked, or was the amount of gear you took? I have been doing this a long time. I don't overpack. If anything, I underpack. So no, not at all. Not even the slightest bit. But I reckon that's experience. I just know what I'm going to use, you know, and know what I'm going to need. And the only thing I put in the car that I didn't need were my spare fuel filters and my spare parts for the car. In fact, it's not really the same subject, but about 6-7 days down the track, Paul said, we should check the U-bolts. Oh yeah, we should do that. Got out the toolbox, and the socket that I had, the tube socket, wasn't long enough, so we couldn't do it. So I went and bought out a tube socket when I got home. So I was underpacked, if anything. But you learn that about a new vehicle. You learn that. Occasionally you find, oh, I can't do that, I need to do that, and buy an extra few bits of tools too. And that was, but they were tight, they weren't loose. But if they'd come loose, I might have had a bit of a problem. I would have had to make something up to fix those, you know, potential problems. And when you're on a track that rough, suspension, it works harder than any other single component. And up those dunes, when that thing's doing this, man, that suspension works. You can see in some of the videos where the spring, that put a GoPro underneath, and you can see the springs articulating, those rear springs articulating. That suspension works. But that was what I was going to say, is how good those shock absorbers were. They got hot, but they did not get hot. You can still touch them with your hands. And if it's a shock absorber you can touch, and it's as hot as a coffee mug, yeah, it's been working hard, but it's not close to. It's not close to. I've seen a Bilstein actually fry. It turned black. We weren't even close to those temperatures. And I think it's because we weren't heavy. The vehicle was actually quite light. And we had more than enough food. We probably took too much food, but then again, I took enough for an extra 8 days. I said, if we have a breakdown and we need a spare part, it is not going to take less than 8 days to get that spare part, no matter where we are. Let's take an extra 8 days of food. And we had at least extra 8 days of food. We could have probably stretched it to 12. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for, it's been really good. I had a lot of lists of people watching. I don't know how many people I have, 31 watching now. That's great, guys. I really appreciate it. If you want, as Patreons, if you would like to suggest things that I do and talk about, and something that you're like I have this big thing with this narrow tire thing, narrow wired tire thing, and it's a never-ending discussion. But apart from that, I say that apart from that only because there are so many differing opinions on tires that it actually is quite interesting. And I am just experimenting like anybody else and just coming up with my own conclusions, which a lot of 50% of people agree with, 50% of people say, nah. And that's cool because they have their own experiences and they can teach us all something. So if you have any suggestions on things you'd like me to do a video about, Overland workshop video about, specifics, I'm happy to do that. Even if it's an easy question to answer, I'll put it into one of my videos somewhere. So the next videos you're going to see are episode 8 and 9, canning stock route. 9 is about the truck. Then you're going to see 5 Overland workshops with Paul. I think it's 5. And then you're going to see 5 story times. And then I might do another live broadcast over December in my new workshop, in my new place that I'm moving to in 2 weeks' time. And thank you very, very much for your support. I do appreciate it. It makes this all possible. And thank you for your patience this morning, because I was getting very despondent this morning. But anyway, Matthew, thank you for your what's on your next on your agenda. Okay, quick one. You've obviously a latecomer to the show. Going for a 3-day camp with Ronnie Dahl in 2 weeks' time. and he's doing a thing on my truck. I'm doing a Overland workshop thing. Haven't just quite decided on what subject matter I'm going to do, but I'll do 1 or 2 videos on that trip, and then all of the programs I've just mentioned for November, December, and then my next big trip will probably be to, I might do a short one in Australia, apart from Ronnie's, but January, February here, it is so hot. Oh, it's a killer. I don't really want to travel here in January, February. I was thinking about doing something in Dubai in February. I might do. So many things I want to do, so little time. But the next big trip will probably be USA 2018. That's hopefully going to work out well. Thanks, Peter from Queensland. Thanks all you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Thanks for your support. Keep in touch and let me know what you'd like me to do. If you have any ideas at all, I'll be very welcome to hear them. Have a great weekend.